Mexico has two nuclear reactors generating almost 5% of its electricity. Its first commercial nuclear power reactor began operating in 1989. There is some government support for expanding nuclear energy to reduce reliance on natural gas, but recent low gas prices have overshadowed this. Mexico is rich in hydrocarbon resources and is a net energy exporter. The country's interest in nuclear energy is rooted in the need to reduce its reliance on these sources of energy. In the next few years, Mexico will increasingly rely on natural gas, and this is central in the new 2012 energy policy. Energy growth was very rapid in the decades to the late 1990s, but then leveled off for a few years.
Una Verde nuclear power plant is the largest nuclear power plant in Mexico and produces about 4.5% of the country's electrical energy. It is located on the coast of the Gulf of Mexico in Alto Lucero, Veracruz. Mexico's interest in nuclear energy was made official in 1956 with the establishment of the National Commission for Nuclear Energy. The government of Mexico, through the Ministry of Energy, is responsible for the storage and disposal of nuclear fuels and radioactive waste, irrespective of their origin. The main nuclear research organization in Mexico is the National Nuclear Research Institute, and NNRI have operated a 1000 kilowatts since November of 1968. The 1984 Act on Nuclear Activities states that the government, through the Ministry of Energy, is responsible for establishing the framework for the use and development of nuclear energy and technology.
Japan has had a long history of earthquakes and seismic activity and destructive earthquakes, often resulting in tsunamis, occur several times a century. To this, concern has been expressed about the particular risks of constructing and operating nuclear power plants in Japan. Amory Lovins has said, an earthquake and tsunami zone current 127 people is an unwise place for 54 reactors. To date, the most serious seismic-related accident has been the Fukushima Daiichi nuclear disaster following the Tohoku earthquake and tsunami. The recent earthquake and the following tsunami rocked Japan to the core. The tsunami also affected the various nuclear plants in Japan, disrupted the energy flow, and more dangerously resulting in radiation leakage. The effects of radiation leakage can be felt for many generations after initial exposure, as Japan already knew from the effects of the nuclear bombs that were dropped in Hiroshima and Nagasaki in the World War II. Problems arose in Japan from nuclear radiation leakage after the tsunami, because shutting down a nuclear reactor completely on an emergency basis is a very difficult task. The earthquake and the following tsunami gave the people of Japan very little reaction time. When the cooling system of the nuclear reactors stopped working, there was no way to stop radiation leakage, as no one could go near a reactor without being affected. The chain reaction inside the reactors could not be controlled after the failure of the cooling system. With the rupture of the cables, the energy created in the reactors, which was increasing with the progress of the reaction, could not be diverted. This resulted in the explosion and increasing radiation leakage. The radiation leakage can have a very bad impact on the health of the people of Japan. The radiations affect food around 150 kilometers radius around the reactor, making it inedible and a highly toxic waste. The radiations also affect various parts of the human body, resulting in deformities, damage to blood vessels, which may have led to death in case of high exposure. This incident has also opened the eyes for other countries, and now they is considering the openings of new plants with many safer rules than before. A check of existing plan is also being proposed, which also includes the installment of the required safety features.
France is a country where nuclear energy has a great weight in relative terms, since its 58 nuclear reactors in operation generate around 80% of electricity. The potential risk of these reactors is very large by the large volume of waste plutonium originating from these. A French citizen can find the maximum distance of 300 kilometers of one of them, and they are usually less than 1 kilometer housing. On the other hand, France produces electricity cheaper than the other countries and especially less aggressive to the environment. Currently, in southern France, is researching and developing the third generation of nuclear energy by fusion. This type of generator will be much safer, less reactive, and will produce 3 times more electricity. Nuclear fission is a nuclear reaction in which two nuclei of light atoms, usually hydrogen and its isotopes, together to form one heavier nucleus releasing a large amount of energy. There are two types. Internal confinement nuclear fission is to create a medium so dense that particles do not have almost no chance of escaping without hitting each other. A small sphere composed of deuterium and tritium is hit by a laser beam, thereby causing their implosion, thus hundreds of times more dense, and explodes under the effect of the nuclear fusion reaction. The second is, in nuclear fusion by magnetic confinement, electrical charged particles of the plasma are trapped in a confined space by the action of a magnetic field. The more developed device has a torus shape and is called tokamak. The benefits of fusion energy will be: it does not produce greenhouse gas emission and radioactive waste, assumes a power housing the fuel use is water. Faced with the possible failure of the reactors, the fusion is self-extinguishing. The long-term experiment, research and development of nuclear fusion could create about 20,000 jobs.